So, a real funny thing is happening in current year. Something called the Great Resignation. Now, let's hear what a millennial has to say. I'm quitting my job this week without another one lined up. Here's my advice to my fellow millennials looking to make the leap. In recent months, as the economy has sprung back to life, Americans have been quitting their jobs in record numbers. More than 3.6 million people quit in April, May, and June, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Mostly, that's a good thing. People clearly feel confident enough in both the job market and their personal finances, or they're dependent on handouts and unemployment anyway, to go looking for better opportunities. I can't blame them. Job openings now outnumber available workers, and employers are desperately trying to fill roles by increasing wages and throwing huge perks at job candidates. And so if you're stuck in a job that keeps getting worse, don't quit, but at least start shopping around for a new one. You have nothing to lose. As I recently wrote, Americans have actually have more in savings now than they did before the pandemic, thanks in part to stimulus checks, unemployment aid, and the ongoing pause in federal student loan payments. But the Great Resignation, as it's being called, may also contain a generational disaster in the making. Yeah, think about the future careers of all these millennials that keep quitting at the drop of a hat. As of June, according to the job data, 942,000 of those who quit their jobs hadn't taken another position yet. Maybe they're waiting for something better, or maybe they're not searching at all, choosing instead to take some time off to recuperate from the pandemic's emotional toll or pursue a long-held dream. It's also possible that they retired, because there are a lot of people out there who can retire right now, but for whatever reason, they choose to keep working. We have a concept called early retirement. So if you ever find yourself in that position that you literally could quit your job right now and never have to work again, then you never have to put up with any BS from a bad boss ever again. Soon as your boss starts making unreasonable demands, you just flip them off. Like, nope, I don't need this job. But for millennials, the largest generation in American history, the financial consequences of a brief stint of unemployment could compound the earlier misfortunes they're still grappling with. So, translation, they are going to screw themselves over, and then they're going to, of course, blame everyone else for it. I mean, it's current year. That's what they do. And millennials started their careers with the deck stacked against them. The current year minus 13 financial crisis ushered in more than a decade of stagnant wages, which made it harder for young workers to pay down their massive student debts and build their savings. Well, guess what? They wouldn't have massive student debts if they weren't suckered into a broken college system. Over the past 5 years, research shows millennials have finally started to make up some of the lost ground, but those born in the 80s are still 11% less wealthy than previous generations were at their age. And those who quit their jobs now without having another one lined up risk falling even further behind. No risk, no reward, right? Without a steady paycheck, millennial quitters will have to burn through their savings just to pay the bills. Obviously. That's assuming, of course, they have anything to burn through. Well, in that case, they're going to have to be sucking dick on the corner at night. A recent survey by Bank of America shows that nearly half of millennials aren't saving consistently, and even in today's market, a new job may not come along as quickly as quitters expect. The typical search takes about 5 months, according to Indeed, and according to a recent FlexJob survey, nearly half of the unemployed are frustrated with their search because they can't find the right role. Let me guess, these are MBAs that graduated with a degree, and they want to immediately be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and they're pissed that no Fortune 500 companies are reaching them to be a CEO? You think I'm exaggerating, but I've seen entitled people like this. Every single job is beneath them unless they're literally at the very top, because they earned it. If someone were to ask me, I would strongly urge them not to quit their job without another one lined up, unless there's some other reason for the departure, such as beginning an indoctrination or retirement. Absolutely true. I agree with this. Unless you can afford to go years without working, like, never just rage quit your job if you can avoid it. I know it's very tough. I'm going through the same problem right now myself. I came so close to rage quitting a few times over the past few months, but I'm so glad I didn't. All of which means that some millennials may emerge from the Great Resignation even worse off than when it started. What we're beginning to see is that millennials are worn out due to facing so much financial instability for so long. Kate Howerton, a certified financial planner at Facet Wealth, told me they're tired of working jobs that don't align with their passion or that don't align with their indoctrination. Oh, boo fucking who? Cry me a river. You described literally everyone in the course of human history with that statement, like minus like maybe 3 people. Very few people actually enjoy their job and it aligns perfectly with their passions, with their skills. The vast majority of people, they just do what they need to do to pay their fucking bills. No, quitting without another option lined up, she added, feels like they finally closed the door on it to not think about it and to deal with it later because they've been in this place of just surviving. So what's it matter? Yeah, especially when the government is paying them more to stay at home than if they were working. There are plenty of times, of course, when it's appropriate or even imperative to leave a job without another one lined up. Sticking it out in a toxic work environment, for example, can do serious damage to your mental and emotional well-being. That is a true statement, but how much damage to your mental and emotional well-being would it do if you were evicted and made homeless because you can't pay your bills anymore? Yeah, and if you figure out that your talent or passion lies elsewhere, it can sometimes require taking a leap of faith to get to where you want to go. I mean, it worked well for Notch, but whatever the reason for your departure, it's almost always a bad idea to make a big financial change in your life without having a clear plan to deal with it. I agree. Eric Roberge, a certified financial planner who works with millennials through his firm Beyond Your Hammock, cautions that millennials whose only plan consists of look for another job may find themselves in deep financial trouble. Well, their plan B is move back with mommy and daddy, so they'll be fine. Just like anything else, there's a proper way to do something, and then there's the winging it way of doing it, he told me. So, what's the proper way to quit a job in these troubled times? As Roberge describes it, you actually need 3 plans. You need a plan A, which is the ideal version, he said. You need to have a plan B, and you need a contingency plan for plan B. Spoiler alert, almost all of you are going to end up with plan C. So, say you have 3 months of savings available to tide you over while looking for a job. This means plan A is land a job earning the same income or more in 3 months. If it works out, you'll have depleted your emergency fund, but with a new paycheck, you can start to rebuild it and maybe even move on to investing in your retirement or other long-term goals. Trouble is, the typical job seeker, let alone cash-strapped millennial, doesn't have enough savings to sustain a proactive job search. 22% of Americans wouldn't be able to last a month without a regular income, a Personal Capital and Harris Poll survey found. And nearly 60% could not go without a regular paycheck for more than 3 months. There are a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, those are the people that can't afford to just quit. And sadly, in a lot of people in those positions, they also don't have the time to like interview for other jobs either, which is really unfortunate. That's how people get trapped. Now, for millennials, the financial squeeze can be even worse. More than 7 in 10 carry debt, according to Bank of America report, including car loans, credit cards, mortgages, and student loans. Missing payments or only paying the minimum can cause interest charges to snowball. You guys need to be careful like that. That's one of the traps they lay for you. You hear those stories about people who've been paying off their student loans for 40 years and they still aren't even half done with them. That's what happens when you pay the bare minimum. Almost all of that money goes to the interest. And then if you just pay the minimum, by the time you finally pay the whole thing off, you would have probably paid like 10, 20 times the initial amount. And it's not just a steady flow of cash you're giving up. Unless you're covered by a spouse's plan, quitting probably means giving up affordable health coverage. You'll have to shop for your own plan or pay extra to keep your employer's plan through COBRA. Other workplace benefits you may be leaving on the table include life insurance, disability insurance, and an employer match on your retirement contributions. If you live alone, life insurance is no problem. Those are all things, as we are leaving a job, that we need to have covered, said Howerton, the financial planner, because God forbid something happens in between and creates even more financial peril, especially if someone doesn't have enough saved towards the long term. That's where plan B comes in. If you've used up your savings and are still jobless after 3 months of searching, you may wind up having to take a job that pays less than you wanted. The key question, Roberge said, is how much less can you accept and still be able to live comfortably? That number is your plan B. And note, if you're in plan B or plan C, don't consider that a permanent job. Like at that point, just take whatever pays your bills, but keep looking. And what if you can only find a job that pays a fraction of your previous wages? How much do you need to earn to keep a roof over your head and meet your core expenses? That scenario is plan C. That's probably what most people are going to end up in, to be honest, if they do shit like this. Yeah, right now, unfortunately, many millennials are quitting their jobs on the assumption there will be something better waiting for them. Almost never the case, by the way. For some, that's turned out to be the case. Seth Zarati, a 29-year-old who works in digital marketing, told me his job was taking a toll on his mental health, so he quit in May without having another role lined up and wound up being offered a better job within weeks. Another millennial told me she quit her job at the beginning of the summer because she was fed up with the work environment. Within 2 weeks, she accepted a new job with a bigger title and better pay. Now, that is great when that happens, but it's not always guaranteed. But there are still lots of pain points lingering beneath the surface of the job market. And now we get to the whole whiteness thing. Data shows that Black and Latino workers who, because of economic inequities, already spend a disproportionate amount of time on job hunts are being left behind. Hamrick, the economic analyst, told me the biggest challenge at the moment was the mismatch between which jobs are available and what people were looking for. That's called supply and demand. Beggars can't be choosers. It doesn't matter what you're looking for, you're eventually going to have to settle for what's available. And many professionals are demanding an unprecedented level of flexibility. Nearly a third of workers surveyed by Good Hire said they won't even apply for a job that would require them to be in the office full time. Hey, good on them. This is a lesson the boomers are going to have to be taught. Yeah, make sure they know either you open up remote work or your company's going to go bankrupt. I love how the power dynamics have shifted in this regard, to be honest. Remember previously, when you talk to your manager about working from home? Like, yeah, I know you don't need to be in the office and all your work can be done remotely. But if you got a problem with being in the office, you could just quit, bitch. We don't need you here. Okay. And now the tables have turned. Now employers are basically begging employees to come back. And the employees are like, I'm not coming back unless you let me work remote full time. And if you don't like it, you could go bankrupt. Fuck you. And one financial planner told me about a millennial client who exemplifies the risks of quitting your job, even in a booming market. The client, a homeowner in their 30s, abruptly left their job because of burnout, assuming a replacement would be easy to come by. When that didn't happen, they wound up renting out their house, moving back in with their parents, racking up credit card debt, and taking on gig work just to get by. The financial advisor helped them pull out of the nosedive by crafting a plan to cut back on dining out and other expenses. Oh, how sad is it that you need a financial advisor for something like stop wasting money eating out? Man, this person seems like the type to make nothing but bad decisions to me. That lines up some temporary health insurance and switch to a homeowner's insurance policy that covers renters. In the months ahead, there are likely to be a lot more millennials who find themselves in a similar position. In late July, a Bankrate survey found that more than half of Americans in the workforce, including a disproportionate number of millennials, plan to look for a new job in the coming year. The Great Resignation, for better or worse, is just getting started. Start looking now, so then you can resign after you find it. I know how the millennial quitters feel. As it happens, I'm leaving my job as a staff reporter here at Insider this week to work on building a freelance career. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. Like, unless your job has an exclusivity contract and you're not allowed to do anything on your own, I would say work on your freelance career first on the side. And once it becomes successful enough that you could quit your job for it, that's when you do it. So it's hard to say whether I would have taken the leap if the economy and my finances weren't in such good shape. What I can say for sure is that I wouldn't have to choose to leave. I wouldn't have chosen to leave any job, especially one as comfortable and rewarding as mine, without a financial plan, a backup plan, and a backup to my backup plan. Very good point. I'm hopeful that this unprecedented wave of quitting will be a good thing in the long run. The more people have the freedom and opportunity to find a job that's right for them, the better off we'll all be. Well, except for people who rely on jobs that aren't popular. Yeah, how much better is everything going to get when there's no more sewage workers, am I right? But as the generation that's already having the hardest time building wealth, my fellow millennials need to be calculated about the moves they make. It's not so much whether they leave the job that matters, it's how they do it that counts. A job change can be a huge catalyst for a better career and a happier life, said Howerton, as long as you're able to make smart, informed decisions. I agree 100% with this. That is all good advice at the end there. It's in line with what I say about college as well. So, yeah, these some of these people can actually give good advice every once in a while. So they may want to actually read them, I guess.
Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.